Hi, I'm Jennet Ingle, the 5-Minute Reedmaker. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead and click subscribe for me and maybe even notify. And that way, you will always know when I drop a new episode, and it will be easier for other people to find my channel and to become themselves better reedmakers and happier musicians. Thank you. So I had a comment come in on my channel over a year ago, actually, from Kendra Brienne, who says, my main issues are my window to heart transition is always chunky or unsmooth. I've tried to turn the reed upside down and scrape to get rid of the harsh lines, but it never fully works or becomes smooth. So I will speak to this. I will say that in my own reed making, I'm very chunky in that place. I leave a pretty big bump between the windows and the heart. And I do it actually quite intentionally because I really liked that contrast there. I use the windows very intentionally to help the heart think it's thicker, to strengthen the heart. I use those windows intentionally to try to make the reed easier to manage with my mouth, the opening of the reed easier to manage with my mouth. And I tend to find that when I smooth that area out, I have less control over that. Like the reed feels a little springy in my mouth, like it always wants to be open. And I don't like that, but plenty of people do. So let's talk about how we can smooth out that bottom of the heart into the windows or windows into the heart, and what happens when we do. So this reed is approximately a day 2. I started it yesterday. It was just roughed out. And just now today, I have polished pet the kitty, polished the heart, dug out the windows a little bit more. And this is a reed now which beeps, crows, approximately a C. It's pretty hard still. And plays on the oboe. And it's pretty good. The opening is not, like, it's not small. I tend to want something a little bit smaller than this, but it's easy to manage. I can close it down pretty easily. And as you can see, like, it is very chunky there at the base of the heart. Now, if I want to remove that strong wall, if I want to make the reed flow a little more organically from the windows into the heart, there's a couple of ways that I can do it. And here we go. My commenter talked about this technique where you turn the reed around and then you scrape backwards over that heart. I find it almost impossible to get any leverage doing that. Like, I really have never had success with that technique, although I have seen people have success. So I'm naming this as a possibility in case it works for you, but it doesn't really work for me. Another thing that I have seen people do that doesn't really work for me, but certainly might for someone else, and so I name it as a possibility. I've seen people scrape backward. So here I am, here's my knife, and instead of going, forward like I do, I'm going to start here and scrape backward. And like, I'm able to get a little bit of cane off onto the knife. And I suppose if I resharpened this knife to a lefty angle so that the burr was here instead of being here, that actually might work even better. But like, this isn't not working. I'm more or less able to smooth things out a little there. So it's a possibility. You might choose to have a lefty knife lying around, a left-handed knife, so that you could do that technique. But again, it's not really what I recommend. The 2 ways that I have most successfully smoothed that across are, first, cross-hatching. So I might think this way. about, instead of scraping with the grain of the cane vertically, I'm actually going to go sideways like this and go across the grain. And then I'll tilt my knife around again and go across the grain coming back. So without actually tackling that wall head on, but sort of skating over it sideways, I certainly am able to smooth that out a little bit. In fact, you might not be able to see it very much more. So that's definitely one approach to the problem, if it is a problem, having a big wall between your heart and your windows. But another way that I think about it is this, and here's the side that I haven't been working on. You can still see that there's a pretty strong, hopefully you can see that there's a pretty strong wall there. And this is the technique that I think about, like, I talk about it like moving a stone wall. If you've got a stone wall out in your pasture on your farm and you want to move it, 2 feet further west, you don't start with the bottommost stone, the one that is already embedded in the earth. You're going to start by taking off the top layer and then taking off the next layer and then taking off the next layer. And then, of course, you'll rebuild it a little further along. So what I'm going to think about here is bringing my knife in and bringing it right to where that wall is, and then just at the very top layer, lifting and brushing that away. Same over on the right-hand side, top layer only. And then I'll go down into the next layer down and find that. So with just sort of infinitely small little gestures, with my knife almost horizontal, I can find my way to taking all of those chunks off at the bottom of the heart. So now the question is, what have I actually done? I have definitely smoothed out that transition area on both sides of this reed, but what has the impact been? It doesn't look significantly more open. It doesn't close significantly less well, although it's not amazing. And when I go to play it, it still beeps. It still crows. It's a little... If I had to go back and re-listen to the crow from before, I don't know that it has changed that much, but it feels a little bit more purified, maybe. It's a little less, jaggedy. And now, to put it on the oboe. I'm definitely not sure that this is going to come across in the video, but it feels different to me. It feels a little bit more hollow, and it feels a little bit less in my control. It has changed the focus for me from being at the tip to being someplace further back, which I suppose means that I just need to rebalance up to the tip. And see if I can bring this back to being something I like more. So if I go up here and pet the kitty, isn't it amazing how much wood is left on this reed even after I've already done this just 10 minutes ago? All right, so that's where I am. It was a reasonably nice read before. It's still reasonably nice. It feels smoother between the heart and the windows. in my mouth, on my lips, it feels a little bit more, it doesn't look more open, but it feels a little bit more open than it did before. And I was easily able to bring it back around to being a read that felt good to me. Uh, in order to smooth out that area between the windows and the heart, you could consider turning the reed around to scrape backward, using the backside of your knife to scrape backward, cross hatching across that transition, or gently lifting layer by layer to smooth it out. And all of those ways work. This has been a 5-minute Reedmaker lesson. You can follow these short videos here on YouTube. You can subscribe if you wish. I hope you will. And if you need to reach me to order reeds or cane, to order a copy of my book, The Happiest Musician, or to ask me a question that I can answer a year from now in a future 5-minute Reedmaker episode, you can find me at jennetingle.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.